good, y'all? It's the Demouchets React, and we're back with another video. Who we got today, C?
Today we're back with another American reaction. So excited about this video. If you're new to us
and we're new to you,
make sure you scroll down,
hit that subscribe button,
and turn on the post notification bell
because we're on the road to 200K.
And we cannot get there without you guys, alright? Join the family. Without further ado, let's get into the video.
Let's get it.
To understand Gen X's relationship with the generational debate, you have to understand what kind of childhood produced them. Gen X grew up as latchkey kids. That term has softened over time into something that sounds almost nostalgic, but the reality behind it was pretty blunt. Divorce rates peaked in the early 1980s, just as the oldest Gen Xers were hitting their teenage years. Both parents working became the new normal. Childcare infrastructure hadn't caught up yet, so an enormous number of Gen X children came home from school to an empty house, let themselves in with the key around their neck, and figured out the afternoon on their own. They made themselves snacks. They did, or didn't do, their homework. They sorted out whatever needed sorting. Nobody was checking on them. Nobody was hovering. The parenting philosophy of the era, to the extent there was one, was roughly, you'll figure it out. And they did. They had to. This wasn't a trauma narrative. For most Gen Xers, it was just Tuesday. You came home, you watched MTV, you made a mixtape, you handled your life. The independence was so total and so early that it stopped feeling like independence and started feeling like just how things work. That early self-sufficiency calcified into something permanent. By the time Gen X reached adulthood, they were arguably the least needy generation in American history. Not because of some superior character trait, but because they had been practicing being on their own since they were 10. Then they got to the culture and found it wasn't really for them either. The boomers had owned the cultural conversation since the 1960s. Woodstock, the counterculture, Vietnam, civil rights. Enormous, historic, loudly narrated events that boomers attached their entire identity to. The media was fascinated with boomers. The advertising industry was fascinated with boomers. The political class was boomers. Gen X arrived to find the conversation already full. There were 77 million boomers taking up most of the oxygen. So Gen X did what it was trained to do. Shrugged, found its own lane, and got on with things. The cultural products Gen X produced reflected exactly this. Slacker, Clerks, Reality Bites, The Breakfast Club, the entire alternative rock movement of the early 90s. All of it was drenched in a particular kind of dry, ironic, low expectation worldview. These were not idealists making art about changing the world. These were people who had watched the idealists of the previous generation make a lot of noise and were deeply skeptical that any of it actually added up to anything. The word whatever as a cultural response to provocation, that was Gen X's contribution to the English language. And it was not accidental. It was a posture developed over years of being told things mattered enormously and quietly deciding they probably didn't.
Oh, hold on. What they talking about, the millennial leapfrog? Okay, hold up. Okay, so these are our parents. I feel like our parents are the relaxed generation. And it makes sense when he talk about the latchkey kids and things like that. But it's like, we were raised by these people.
Right.
Who thought that we should just be these people.
Yeah.
Like, it comes up with them as grandparents. This is the generation who don't like to be grandparents.
Oh, Lord, yeah.
I mean, I don't want to say that y'all don't like to be, but y'all definitely not y'all parents. I can tell y'all that.
Man, I don't. I guess so. I don't know. It's like we really all come from different times, so we have a different performance act towards certain situations, and it's different. It just keeps getting different, and there's nothing we can do about it. Like, we can try to even bring back certain days and make it more like a up to speed to, like, yeah, this is how we used to do things, but no one, these kids don't be caring. So I can know. I understand how the Gen X, they didn't care. They was like, whatever. They didn't care.
Came the millennials. Gen X had barely gotten settled into adulthood when 83 million millennials started entering the workforce, bringing with them a cultural volume that made even the boomers look quiet.
Who is this supposed to be, the boomers or us? Because who's stressing like this?
Who?
Golly.
Child.
I know this movie scene. That's why I'm laughing at it. Bro, dude was looking for a job.
You talk about who was stressing, but it was us.
Golly.
It was us. In the beginning,
man,
we all was stressed in the beginning because we was the generation go to school, go to college, get your degree.
Right. Yeah.
Now the people who came underneath us, Gen Z, baby, Gen Z is becoming millionaires in high school off of social media.
They was getting off of social media. We was looking at social media. It's like, oh, cool. Look at all these transitions. But they was like, we on it. This is what we
down payment on the house.
Suddenly, everything was about millennials. Their expectations, their avocado toast, their student debt, their relationship with participation trophies, their burnout, their therapy, their feelings about their feelings.
Yeah.
Gen Xers, who had been waiting their turn, who had quietly watched boomers cling to power through their 50s and 60s while expecting to eventually step into leadership, found themselves getting leapfrogged. The boomers were still there. The millennials were right behind them. And the media, the advertising world, and the cultural conversation had essentially decided to skip straight from one to the other. The Gen X writer summarized this with characteristic precision. We've created all these great websites that now millennials waste their lives on. Built the platform, didn't get the credit. That's a very Gen X experience. By the time Gen Z arrived and the OK Boomer Wars began, Gen X had been through 2 complete cycles of this. They had watched themselves get ignored while one generation ahead and one generation behind fought for the microphone. Their response was, appropriately, not to fight for the microphone. The generational war.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Why y'all wasn't so pushy and stuff to get y'all way? Like, y'all really came from an era where y'all seen them cut up. Like, y'all came from that era where, y'all parents is going crazy.
Right. But think about it. Like, I'm thinking about, the people that we know, like our parents, their siblings, people in our family, friends, people we see, people we know. I'm thinking about them, and these are the people who will stay on a job. Forever.
Yeah, that's them.
Regardless if they're getting a raise or not, they staying on their job.
That's them. Yeah.
And here comes us. You give us a 25-cent raise, oh, we going to your competitor.
Right.
Today.
How many jobs you had? Look at my resume. I had a couple already. Yeah, see, I got experience.
Diverse backgrounds.
It's kind of crazy because it's like we either quit or got fired from long jobs.
Why we got fired?
Still use it for a resume.
Right. Why we got fired, baby?
Listen, no.
Because we going to take our extra minutes on our lunch break.
Yeah, and you know what I'm saying? We've been late a couple times already and they told us about it. No more warning, so they had to let us go.
Listen,
that's not
we need more than 30 minutes.
Ain't the topic. Traffic was bad.
Baby, not Gen X. They there before the boss.
I'm saying, and it's like they wanted to get it right, but that's the mirror they put up when they looked at their parents because they held on to a job for real.
At least they got houses though. Let's talk about that though.
The housing era for them was going crazy
houses.
too.
Look at us with the housing markets.
Yeah, not everybody trying to get inside something.
Baby, we ain't moving for another 10 years.
That's how it be. You really gotta. We talking now.
I'm talking.
That's how it be though, because you really gotta watch the marketing and be like, yo, if you leave this, you're gonna be paying crazy money.
Interest rate.
Gen Z is at its core a war about who gets to be understood. Boomers want credit for what they built. Millennials want recognition for what they've had to deal with.
Yeah.
Gen Z wants someone to acknowledge that the world they're entering is harder than the one previous generations got. All three of those are genuine desires for validation. All three require a certain degree of public performance. The complaint, the clapback, the viral post, the generational hot take. Gen X's entire psychological profile works against that. They don't perform. They are constitutionally allergic to public earnestness. The same culture that produced grunge and irony and whatever is not going to pivot to making TikToks about how they feel overlooked. Complaining loudly about being ignored is the most un-Gen X thing imaginable. If they did it, they'd be embarrassed by themselves. A leadership expert at a conference made a joke that went viral in Gen X circles. She said she had no advice for Gen X for 3 reasons. First, they don't need it. They're the most self-sufficient generation in history. Second, even if she had something to tell them, they wouldn't care. Third, even if they did care, they would never admit it. The fact that that joke went viral among Gen X people rather than annoying them tells you everything. They found it funny. They shared it. And then they went back to not caring. There's one more piece of this that doesn't get discussed much. Gen X is currently running things. Quietly, without much fanfare, without the generational brand that boomers wore like a badge and that millennials and Gen Z have built their entire internet identities around, Gen X is actually in charge of a lot.
They're holding the fort
More than
now.
half of Fortune 500 CEOs are Gen X. Jeff Bezos, Elon Musk, Satya Nadella, Larry Page, Sergey Brin. The people who built the infrastructure of the digital age and currently run most of it. All Gen X. They also run most of the middle of the economy. They're the managers, the directors, the people who actually execute whatever the boomer bosses decide and translate it for the millennial and Gen Z employees. One workplace expert described Gen X as the bridge generation. They entered a workplace dominated by boomers, adapted to it, then had to turn around and adapt again when millennials flooded in. They've been translating between generations their entire working lives. They are doing this without making it a whole thing. No manifesto, no hot takes, no TikTok series about what it's like to be Gen X in a multi-generational workplace. Just the work. The irony at the heart of this episode is that Gen X is actually the generation that most people on this channel should probably pay most attention to. They are the bridge. They have working relationships with every generation in the current workforce. They can talk to boomers because they grew up respecting self-sufficiency and not complaining. They can talk to millennials because they understand economic precarity and they helped build the internet culture that shaped millennial life. They can talk to Gen Z because they genuinely don't care about status and hierarchy in the way that makes younger workers nervous. They're the only generation nobody is fighting with. And the reason nobody is fighting with them is the same reason nobody is fighting about them. They decided a long time ago that the fights weren't worth having. Whether that's wisdom or just very well-practiced indifference is probably the most Gen X question anyone could ask. And if you asked a Gen X person, they'd probably shrug and say, does it matter? Drop it in the...
Oh, yeah, we're going to separate that. Make sure you guys go check them out. But yeah, so I really feel like, all this stuff makes sense. He made some really good comparisons.
Yeah, he did. And, we have to give credit to our Gen X parents. We wouldn't be as strong-minded as we are today without them. As much as we're going to start picking with them now.
Oh, Lord.
Okay. All right, y'all. We hope you guys enjoyed this video with us. Be sure to subscribe. We'll see you soon.
Peace.